Westfield, New Jersey, is a town defined by its silence. It is the kind of place where the lawns are manicured to perfection, the schools are top tier, and the crime rate is virtually non-existent. It is a sanctuary for the wealthy, a place where people go to escape the chaos of the world. For Derek and Maria Broadus, purchasing 657 Boulevard for $1.3 million wasn't just a real estate transaction. It was the realization of the American dream. They had 3 beautiful children, a successful career, and now a 6-bedroom Victorian masterpiece built in 1905 to call home. But in the shadows of that grand architecture, something was waiting for them. In June 2014, the family hadn't even moved in yet. The house was a hive of activity as contractors moved in and out, painting walls and sanding floors to make the space perfect for the family's arrival. One evening, after the workers had left, Derek went to the porch to check the mail. Tucked between the typical flyers and utility bills was a thick, white, hand-addressed envelope. There was no return address. The handwriting was heavy and strange, a jagged script that felt out of place in such a refined neighborhood. When Derek stepped inside and slid his finger under the flap, he expected a welcome to the block card. Instead, he found a 3-page manifesto of pure, unfiltered obsession. The letter began with a chilling formality. "Dearest new neighbor at 657 Boulevard," it read. "Allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood." But the warmth vanished in the very next sentence. The writer claimed that their family had been the self-appointed guardians of the house for nearly a century. "My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s, and my father watched in the 1960s. It is now my time. Do you know the history of the house? Do you know what lies within the walls of 657 Boulevard? Why are you here? I will find out." Derek felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He looked out the window at the empty, sun-drenched street. The neighborhood felt different now, less like a sanctuary and more like a stage. The letter continued, mocking the renovations Derek was paying for. "I see already that you have flooded 657 Boulevard with contractors. Task, task, task. Bad move. You don't want to make 657 Boulevard unhappy. You have changed things and made it so shiny. You have stripped it of its secrets." The letter ended with a name that would haunt the family for years. The Watcher. Derek immediately went to the police. They were confused but concerned, advising him not to tell the neighbors just yet. But the silence only made the fear grow. 2 weeks later, a second letter arrived. This one was far more sinister. It proved that the author wasn't just glancing at the house. They were observing every move the family made. The Watcher had identified the Broadus children. The writer called them the young blood. The letter asked, "Is the young blood play in the basement? Or are they too afraid to go down there alone? I would be very afraid if I were them. It is far away from the rest of the house. If you were upstairs, you would never hear them scream." The Watcher then began asking about the bedrooms, wanting to know which child slept in which room so they could plan better. They even knew the nicknames Derek and Maria used for their kids, names that hadn't been written on any public moving documents. The dream had officially become a living nightmare. The Broaduses stopped the renovations. They stopped bringing their children to the property. They spent thousands of dollars on high-tech surveillance cameras and hired private investigators, including a former FBI profiler. The investigation led to several unsettling paths. First, there was the Langford family next door. They had lived in their home since the 1960s. One of the sons, Michael, was known for being a bit of a recluse and was often seen staring at the Broaders' house from his porch. The police brought him in for questioning, but there was no physical evidence to tie him to the letters. Without a confession or a DNA match, the police were stuck. Then a new lead emerged. Forensic investigators found a trace of DNA on one of the envelopes. It belonged to a woman. This shifted the focus entirely. Was it a jealous neighbor who had wanted the house for themselves? Was it a local historian who felt the renovations were destroying the home's soul? They even looked at the previous owners, the Woodwards, who had lived there for 23 years without issue, until their final days in the house, when they received a single, strange note from someone claiming to be the Watcher. They had dismissed it as a prank. The Broaderses, however, couldn't afford that luxury. As months turned into years, the mystery deepened. Derek became a shadow of his former self. He spent his nights sitting in the darkened rooms of 657 Boulevard, staring out the windows with a flashlight, hoping to catch a glint of a camera lens or a person lurking in the bushes. He grew paranoid of everyone. Was it the postman? Was it the guy walking his dog? The Watcher seemed to know about the cameras, mocking them in later letters. 657 Boulevard is turning on me, the writer wailed. It is coming after me. I don't understand why. What spells have you cast on it? It used to be my friend. The financial toll was just as devastating as the emotional one. The Broaderses tried to sue the previous owners for not disclosing the Watcher, but the case was dismissed. They tried to sell the house, but the story had gone viral. It was known worldwide as the Watcher House. Prospective buyers were terrified, and the town board refused to let the family tear the house down to subdivide the lot. They were trapped in a $1 million cage, paying a mortgage on a home they were too terrified to sleep in. Finally, in 2019, 5 years after the first letter arrived, the Broaderses found a buyer. They sold 657 Boulevard for $959,000, a staggering loss of nearly $400,000, not including the legal fees and security costs they had poured into the property. They moved to a different town, desperate to put the young blood and the Watcher behind them. To this day, the case remains one of the most famous unsolved mysteries in American real estate. No one was ever arrested. No DNA match was ever found. Some skeptics believe the family wrote the letters themselves to get out of a bad deal, but the sheer level of terror and financial ruin they endured makes that theory hard to swallow. The new owners of 657 Boulevard have reported that they haven't received any letters yet. But in the quiet town of Westfield, the legend persists. Somewhere, perhaps behind a curtain in a neighboring house, or sitting in a car parked just around the corner. Someone is still looking. Someone still knows the secrets of the walls. And someone is still waiting for the next family to bring young blood into the house. If you ever find yourself walking down Boulevard, keep your head down, because you never know who might be watching.
If you thought that story was disturbing, wait until you hear what happened in this next one. Click the video on your screen now, and make sure you subscribe, because the next story might be even worse.